Always do that.
Let's dive in.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now.
Yeah.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher.
What a time to be alive. Here we are. This is exciting. This podcast is now an adult. This is the 18th edition of Bookmarks with Bump, the social commentary podcast where I, Sean Bump Cote, go over all of the interesting bookmarks or threads that I have bookmarked from Twitter or X, whatever you feel like calling it. We dive into a variety of topics from sports to politics to health to fitness to mental health to whatever it takes to keep pushing yourself to your limits. Here I am, sitting here grounded in reality. This podcast is now an adult, and I've just continued to stay sticking at it, banging away here. This is 18 weeks now that I've been dropping a new edition of Bookmarks with Bump, and I feel proud. I feel very proud of my consistency. I feel proud of the product. As the weeks go on, I'm doing less and less as far as edits go, and I'm feeling like I'm speaking more cohesively. Being a performer, which is what this is, I turn on the microphone, I hit record. That has always come very naturally to me. I've been in front of cameras since I was in 5th grade. I've been on stages since I was in 7th grade. I've been on a microphone since I was in 7th grade, and here I am doing it in a different way. This is a different outlet for me. This is a different way for me to sharpen my sword, if we want to say that. I've said it a million times in my life, ever since turning 25, really, that God has given me a purpose. There's a reason why I was given a second chance, and that second chance was just for me. To be the example that no matter how far gone you may be, there is always hope. As long as you're willing to put in the hard work, you can achieve whatever it is that you set your mind to. And for me, that has been running and taking care of myself and my fitness and finding a career. And I'm doing all of those things. Let's get into life. Let's get into the things that are exciting, the things that I've had going on. And I actually have an announcement to make today, but I won't get to that till a little bit later. So, we'll start with where I wrapped up last week. Last week's episode, I cut it a little bit short because I was off to visit some old friends, so I burned some bridges in my past, as most people would when you live the lifestyle that I did. I was, self-admittedly an addict and an asshole. I like to say I was a shahid, but the facts are the facts. I did not treat people as a priority, which may be part of the reason why I am the way I am towards people now. I could be overcompensating, or I could actually be living with my heart instead of my selfish brain. Nonetheless, I've had multiple people reach out to me, not only over the past couple years, but more recently, over the past couple weeks, I've had old friends reach out, and these are friends that I played football with or friends that I had while I was in high school, and they kind of watched my downfall, and they also watched me rise from the ashes like a phoenix. And last Friday, I was afforded the opportunity once again to hang out with some old friends. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I talked about an old buddy of mine hitting me up to play some golf, and that was my friend Tommy, who I played football with back in high school. And he's been very active as being a friend in my life the last couple of weeks, and I'm extremely grateful for it. Now, this might be something you hear on a podcast and go, man, what's going on with this kid? Why is he talking like this? But to me, that's just another sign or example of my growth, to have somebody who was like disgusted with me 6 years ago come back into my life and kind of make their presence felt and known and be consistent is something that shows me the quality of person that I've become. And this guy is one of those people who really is the salt of the earth. Whenever you talk to him, he always makes a mention to say hi to your parents for me. He's just a really good kid, man. And I got to hang out with him last week, as well as old buddy Zach. And this kid and I were like inseparable. At one time in life, we were attached to each other at the hip, going everywhere together, doing everything together. And once again, I led a lifestyle that led me to a tumultuous downfall, but I've talked enough about that. Let's talk about what we did last week. So he had asked me to hang out because he was going over to see Zach, and Zach is now, he's a successful salesman, and he runs a car dealership, and he has a family, and it was it's so cool to have that connection happen, and it's just like old times again. We didn't skip a beat when we saw each other. It was amazing. And what did we do? What was the activity that we chose to do? So I don't know if anybody who listens to this podcast is a fan of other podcasts, which is why I started a podcast, because I love podcasts. But one of my favorite podcasts is a podcast, the number one live podcast in all of podcast world, Kill Tony. And so Kill Tony is sponsored by a company called Gel Blaster. All right. And I was invited to a Gel Blaster battle. Now, as wounded as I may be from that, I am still covered in welts. I was just hopping out of the shower earlier, and I noticed a welt on my oblique and a welt on one of my love handles there, and I couldn't believe that the marks was still there, but I got lit up. Really, I had never shot these things before. I think Zach and his wife had a unfair advantage because they were shooting glow in the dark pellets, so they could actually see where their aim was when I just had normal run of the mill pellets. Now here I am now. To my right is a gallon jug of glow in the dark Orbeez that I decided to pick up because I will be continuing to blast gel at my friends. I will be inflicting some serious damage moving forward. I am going to get whatever top of the line gel blaster that I have to get in order to do so as well. Like I'm not playing any games with this. I am getting super tactical. Now, here we were. I moved some things around in my routine because being who I am, I'm very structure based, but it's important to be flexible for the people that you love. The people in your life deserve your time. And you need to be accommodating to that, and don't be the person who says no all the time. Say yes to the important people in your life. And so that's exactly what I decided to do. I decided that I'm going to move around some things. I'm going to hit the gym right after work, do my run right after, and make my way over to Tommy's. And that's what I did. And I had a hell of a night. I ran around all around Zach's backyard, sliding on the ground, doing barrel rolls, going prone next to a pile of dog crap. And yeah, I got banged up a little bit. I got welts on my fingers and my legs and my face, but I had the time of my life. I laughed like a kid, and we were playing like kids, and it was like uh, it was just it's amazing to have those connections with those people where when you see them again and nothing changes, like obviously things change. You have different careers, you have homes, cars, all of the things you didn't have when you were younger, but you have that friendship that's everlasting and evergreen, like a deciduous forest. It just doesn't go away. And that was a very heartwarming experience for me. It opened my eyes up to what friendship really is, and it opened my eyes up to just it's the ability to say yes to people and how important that is. I know that maybe I made their nights, maybe I didn't, but that doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. Okay, let me not say that, but it made my night just to be able to have that night with my friends. And it didn't even matter that I got home at midnight and had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get into work. None of that mattered. What mattered was the moment and being present right there. That was special for me. And the ability to do that has been fleeting for me. But right there, it wasn't. It's all I cared about. All I cared about right then was right then. And that was awesome. And we move on to the next day. So yeah, I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning. I did my thing. I had a overtime that I've been working. I've been working every Saturday, and now I'm getting more overtime, which is awesome, as I had mentioned before. But I had made plans with my little brother. In my last few days here of incessantly roaming social media now. Let me just be clear about this. And if anybody from work is listening, please do not fire me. I do this to the best of my abilities. I am a hard worker. I do good work. You know this. You see what's on the brown cards. You see the presses moving up and down. But when I have a moment to myself, which is generally in the restroom, that's when I do my scrolling. And I believe it was Thursday evening, I saw William Montgomery from the Kill Tony show, as I had mentioned beforehand, coming to Connecticut. Now, I was supposed to see William Montgomery back in June, and he had jumbled up his flights, and one got canceled and delayed, and I wasn't able to make it, and he had to cancel his shows. But I just, out of happenstance, saw that Instagram story that he posted, saw that he was coming to the Hartford Funny Bone. We'll get into that in a minute. And I said, whatever, let's go. And originally, I was just going to go by myself. But I said, hey, Seth, that's my little brother. Would you like to go see William Montgomery with me? And he did. And so I got tickets and we went out Saturday night. We made our way to the Hartford Funny Bone, which just happens to be in Manchester. And not only is it in Manchester, it's not a standalone building. It's not your typical run-of-the-mill comedy club. This is a comedy club that sits in the bottom floor of the basement in the Buckland Hills Mall. That is a very interesting setting, first and foremost. I'm wondering how often they have scragglers come in and just whatever. I didn't buy any jewelry from Mahmood, so let me just see a comedy show instead with my extra money. They have a bar that's right in front there. They serve food. It was pretty decent. I had a grilled chicken BLT. My brother had what he claims is the most mid buffalo chicken sandwich that he's ever had in his life. But it was just a great time to go out and have that time with my brother. I've been spending a lot of time with friends, reconnecting with friendships lately, and it's been good to get out, okay? Which is kind of what I'm doing this week. I am going to hop on the train and make my way to Boston tomorrow. I took a couple days off here. I took Friday off. And I'm not going to be working the overtime Saturday. I start my new schedule coming up Monday. I'll be going in at 5 o'clock and leaving at 3:30. An extra hour bookending both sides of my usual shift. But I wanted to treat myself here. I had a planned trip to Boston, and I'm going to follow through. I'm continuing to follow through with this plan. I am taking some time to myself here. I'm going to go explore a new city. I've been to Boston multiple times before. However, usually I go to see a Bruins game or a Red Sox game. This time I'm just going for a concert, right? So I'm going out. There's a concert Friday night. I wanted to see Parker McCollum. I'm going to see Parker McCollum at the MGM Music Theater there. And then the next morning, I'm going to wake up and do my long run, which is scheduled for 75 minutes tops. And I plan on doing 8 miles through the city of Boston. And I'm looking very much forward to this trip. And this is something that I want to do more often moving forward, whether it be a concert or a comedy show, or even just go to the movie theater. I want to start to do a couple of things. I want to do one thing a month where I just take a little bit of time for myself and go out and do something alone. And that's going to be a thing for me for growth, right? So as I mentioned before, it's always been easy for me to perform. To come onto a microphone and talk is something that comes very naturally to me. But if you've ever had a conversation with me in person, you might notice me to be a little bit awkward or a little bit tentative. Maybe I come off as anxious, and generally that's because I could be. I'm not always the most talkative person. Most times I try to stay quiet, and if I'm not quiet, I'm the complete opposite, where I'm obnoxious. So this is going to be something that I need to do in order to have a better social life, right? Like when I was drinking and drugging, social life came very, very easy to me because I had the liquid courage in me and I had something everybody wanted. Nowadays, I don't. No, you kind of go through a mix of personalities when you're living as a sober person. And for me, I just want to be able to feel more in tune with myself and be able to carry conversations with people that I've never met before or people that I'm nervous to talk to. Last week I came on here and said, just don't prepare anything, just go with the plan, or don't plan anything, don't prepare anything, just go with the flow. And that's that's what I plan on doing moving forward. I'm going to explore different places, see concerts, and concerts were an integral thing to me growing up. I grew up in the music scene. If you know anything about me, you know that I made music from all the way from middle school through high school, up until a couple of years ago when my computer started to slow down really, really poorly, and that might be an excuse or that whatever it is. I don't really know, but if I was truly, truly passionate about it, I think that it was something that I would make happen. I just don't think at this time in my life, as a 30-year-old white man from the suburbs of Torrington, that rapping is really the bread that I should be buttering right now. I think that this coming on here and doing this, giving my motivational takes on whatever it may be, or giving insights to different ways to feel comfortable with yourself, or fitness tips, with a background in personal training. I just think that coming on here, this is my purpose to fulfill. Um, and so that's what I'm going to do moving forward. That's a true passion of mine. That's a purpose of mine, and that's my outlet, right? One of them. Now you ask me, okay, Bump, what are your other outlets then? And if you know me well, you know about a year and a half ago, well, almost 2 years ago now, I started a Substack where I went on and I wrote articles weekly for the NFL season, and bi-daily, we'll say 2 times a week maybe for the NBA season for a little bit, until I started the Funny Guys Money Lines podcast with Nick and Hunter, where I would give out my gambling picks. I'm a fan of gambling. I was an avid gambler, but things have kind of changed since then. I've been more financially conscious. I've been more frugal as a person. I like to throw out little wagers here and there, but I'm not a big deposit boy when it comes to FanDuel and DraftKings. I like to just kind of do what I can with the money that I got in there, place small wagers to keep me floating, and if I have to deposit, then I guess it's time for me to stop gambling. So I'm doing that, right? And then I stop once the podcast starts. It was easier to get my picks out that way. I continued on Twitter at Bumpy Bet Slips, but over over a period of time, I realized, like, hey, you're not really working on a passion or something, and when it came to Substack, my original idea was that I wanted to just I was struck by inspiration one day while I was in the press room at the beginning of my apprenticeship, and I wanted to, I am coming into life now here, and one way that I phrase it is like, October 1st was my 6 years of sobriety from drugs. Now, I'm 7 years sober from drinking, but I'm 6 years sober from drugs. And I guess you could say that that's my true sobriety date. 6 years ago on October 1st, I was sentenced. Okay. And I like to phrase it as I walked into the doors of Torrington Court and I died that day. And now, like right now, I'd say that I'm actually 6 years old. I was, I was a different person then. And I know that people like to say that, and it might be an excuse or a way to excuse yourself from your past mistakes. But the other thing about that is that I take accountability for everything that I ever did. Like, I understand how many times I effed up in my life, and I've made amends with a lot of people, and there are a lot of people that don't ever want to talk to me again, and I completely understand and give them that credit. Like, they don't have to, and they shouldn't if they don't want to. But I am truly sorry for all of the mistakes that I've made in my life. And I realized that throughout that period of incarceration. So I like to think that when I was released from Willard Sobolski, that I was a new person. I was reborn in 2019. I came out new and refreshed. And since then, I've hit the ground running. And when you're going through adult life, especially with a late start like that, like the first thing that I did was gotta get a job. I didn't even get into shape until a couple months after I had been home. I started working, and with working came money, and with money came food whenever I wanted it, and I just was eating and stuffing my face. And I guess I became addicted to food rather than drugs and drinking. I hadn't truly found my purpose yet. I hadn't been sh- I hadn't been saved at that point. I hadn't been shown what my purpose is. But one day I woke up, and I was 24 years old. My knees hurt, my back hurt. I felt like a 45-year-old man, and I said it's time for me to get in shape. And I started working out little by little. I started watching what I ate, paying very close attention to the nutrition facts. At the time, I was stocking shelves overnight for a grocery store. And so I was watching all of the food that I love being put on the shelf and looking at how much sugar and saturated fats are in these foods. And I just knew that I was filling myself with the wrong substances. So we fast forward, I go through, I lose a ton of weight, and I go, man, one day I go, man, I think I should be able to run right now while I was out on a walk, and I couldn't. And as I said before many, many times, that was the match that lit the flame, and I've taken off since then. My three goals in the life are to have a successful career, raise good children, and run in the Boston Marathon. In order for me to do that, I had to adopt a different type of lifestyle. I flew through my first year and I ran a half marathon and I had an incredible time in that. But throughout that, I actually injured my hip and I rehabbed myself back to health since then. And still, the Boston Marathon at the top of my list. And throughout that period, I realized my purpose. I was saved. I was saved by Jesus Christ. I was touched one day on a run, and I felt like stopping, but a hand, uh, what felt like a hand, was placed on my shoulder and pushed me throughout the rest of my run while I was training for that half marathon. And I got home, and the first thing I saw when I got home was the Bible, and I started to read out of it. And the next day I went to work, and a man from a church approached me. He was trying to recruit me as a member of his church. Now, I didn't go to that church, but everything happens for a reason. I found my home. I found my church since then, and I've become a member, and I haven't stopped going ever since. And that's the story of how I was saved. And that's when I realized what my purpose was. My purpose in life is to be that example to never give up, never quit on yourself. Whenever you feel like you've been too far gone, you have to realize that you can keep pushing through. Now, that's my purpose, right? What am I supposed to do for a living, though? I knew I wasn't going to be stocking shelves for a long time and running in these endurance races, as I know, and also as Dean Karnazes has stated in his book. Uh, um, it's not an enriching monetary gain you can get from these races. Now, granted, you can win cash prizes, and I've seen it happen. And they're decent. I think the highest cash prize I've seen was at the Hartford Marathon, and they gave like $10,000 to the first place winner. Now, think about that. You'd have to win 5 marathons a year in order to have a decent living, right? You'd have to win 10 to have a great living, and you'd have to win 100 to be a millionaire. And I knew that's not in the cards for me, right? And as time progresses, I realize the thing that I love the most are sports. And this is what me taking on running is. Like, I was a failed athlete in high school. I went on a mailbox crusade and I couldn't face the coach. And I didn't finish my senior year. I was supposed to start both ways and I didn't because I quit. I gave up. And that's also a thing that kind of pushes me towards what my purpose is, to never give up. You don't know what you're leaving on the table if you quit. And so that's why now everything that I do in life, I give 100% effort to, I give consistent persistence to, and I won't stop. I won't ever quit on anything ever again, because that's what God told me that I need to do with my life. And that's very empowering. Now, That's also why I run, because I still want to be an athlete as bad as I possibly can. I run, I golf, I play basketball, I do all these things to kind of live out the life of an athlete that I never really got to fulfill when I was younger. But what's one thing that I can do? And working through this apprenticeship, I realized, man, I could have a solid career here. That's great. And I will. I will continue to build my career there and do that for the time being until my credit is good enough to get me into a place where I can get a private loan. I had originally tried at this point to get into Full Sail University, where I was unfortunately turned away due to financial reasons. But I want to be a broadcaster. I want to be a broadcaster or a journalist who writes on the beat for a team in the NFL or the NBA. But why give up now? Why give up just because I can't? I can't because they say I can't. That doesn't mean that I can't. I just can't do it their way. Why don't I do it my way? And I started a Substack in the beginning of 2023. Now we go through the period of time where I go through the podcasting. I don't really contribute to the Substack as much. I was kind of turned off to the gambling world. And if you go to my Substack today, I'll tell you why. Exactly in my first article since returning. I am following all of my passions in life right now. That is my plan in life, is to follow my passions and to stay busy with that. I don't want to be incessantly scrolling. I like to scroll while I'm on the toilet at work. That's it. I don't want to come home and scroll. If I have free time at home, I'd like to fill that with entertainment or art, whether it be a movie or maybe a show. But I really wouldn't want to. I don't really want to watch things a lot. The only thing that I really want to watch on the television is sports, whether it be football or basketball. If one of those seasons isn't going on, I'll watch the end of the hockey playoffs. I'll watch baseball if I really have to. I really only like being there in the stadium for a lot of sports. Like, I could go to a stadium and watch any sport, but the only sports I can sit down and actually pay attention to are football and basketball. And so that's what I'm doing here with the Substack. The Ball with Bump Substack. That is what I named it back then. That is part of my video logging that I did on YouTube, and that is what I'm doing moving forward. I am going to do a weekly recap of the NFL as the season continues. I am going to write about different stories that inspire me, and I'm going to do everything that I can to stay off the social medias and stay out of the hellhole that is social media, and just keep myself productive, keep myself contributing to the world. Now I have my passion in running. I have my passion with this purposeful outlet, which is the podcast. And now I have my other passion, which is writing. I love to write. I've always loved to write, from being a musician to being here. That is what I've really honed in on, is writing. And yes, maybe I didn't go to school and get an English major. Maybe I didn't get a writing degree. Maybe I don't have a broadcasting degree, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it. And that doesn't mean that I can't sharpen my sword until I can one day. Who knows what this will turn into? This I'm not expecting anything from this. And that's the beautiful thing about life. When you're following your passions, you do it because you love it. You do it with your heart. You don't do things with your heart expecting anything in return. And that's how you keep yourself whole. And that's what I plan on doing here. And so that's my announcement for this podcast. I'm restarting my Substack back up, and I will continue to be writing, giving my take on the NFL and the NBA as these seasons progress here. And I'm very excited to share that with you all. And I hope every subscriber to this podcast will also become a subscriber to the Substack and stay tuned to read what I'm writing. I mean, I've gotten off of break time social media at work now. And during my lunch break and during my 15-minute break, I like to sit down and read a book. It started with the Ultra Marathon Man. I thought that would be a good exercise to do. And now I'm continuing with my next book. I'm reading The Open, which is the story of the first time the U.S. Open came to Bethpage Black in Long Island, one of the most daunting courses that are known to man, really. And it's quite the tale. They were originally turned away. Well, they weren't turned away, but they turned themselves away when the course said, okay, well, who's going to pay the green fees? And that's a pretty interesting question for the course to ask um, to the USGA of all organizations. You know, it's not your regular charity golf tournament. This is a professional golf tournament that they were like, yeah, we don't care who you are, which is quite ballsy by the Bethpage Black course. I mean, that just shows you how fearless and ferocious that course can be. But yes, that's my announcement. That was kind of anticlimactic, but and it took a long way to get there. But I think that was I think this story of my life, um, as self-imposed this feeling might be, it's interesting, man. And I like to listen to people who have gone through different things in recovery and find themselves. And this is what I'm doing here with this podcast more than anything. I'm showing you the ways that I found myself. I I was just struck earlier this week with like, why aren't you writing? You know, when I was reading this book, I was like, I want to write a book. I want to write a book about the story of my life. You know, it's not too typical to a lot of people. I've had quite the interesting run of things, and I don't really like to glorify my past, but there are a lot of stories in there that could really turn some heads. But I'd rather write about sports for the time being until a publishing deal comes across my desk, and then I could branch out into other things. But I want to prove my pen before I do that. And so here we are. It's another beautiful Thursday. The crisp air is starting to hit. Fall is really hitting us. The leaves are, they're shedding off of the trees. It's hurricane season. Hurricane Milton just came in with extreme winds. The storm surges have been crazy, and it's payday. So payday means that it's grocery day, which leads me to my first topic of the day, my first thread of the day that I'll dive into here. It's by Aku Dad Physique, okay? And he says 200 grams of protein and 2,000 calories a day for just $30 a week at Aldi. I just did my grocery shopping today. I like to shop at BJ's. I have a BJ's card, so I like to use that. And mainly I go there because they have 60 flats of eggs, and I love eggs. I eat about 8 eggs a day, and it's a great source of protein. I also, I buy these things in bulk, and it kind of keeps me from shopping for a week. I can last 2 weeks with the groceries that I buy. But $30 a week is a lot less than I'm spending, and we'll dive right into that. The first thread is 2 liters of milk, price $1.93. Chicken breast fillets, price $5.29. Protein yogurt, price $3.73. Broccoli, price $2.49. 2 kilograms of rice, price $4.61. Granola, 1 kilogram, price $2.30. Bread, 93 cents. Frozen fruit, $2.30. Eggs, for a dozen, $6.35. Total cost, $30. This man likes to make eggs on toast. Protein, 30 grams. Fat, 16 grams. Carbs, 39 grams. A 420 calorie breakfast. Lunch, chicken stir fry. 520 calories, 40 grams of protein, 15 grams of fat, and 56 grams of carbs. 520 calories. Evening protein smoothie, 40 grams of protein, 15 grams of fat, 64 grams of carbs. And for dinner, yogurt and granola. Now, that's a way to keep your sweet tooth right there. That is a out of the ordinary dinner, and that's kind of dessert, really. Yogurt and granola protein, 40 grams, fat, 12 grams, 70 grams of carbs, total calories, 550. The daily macro breakdown on that meal plan is 175 grams of protein, 55 grams of fat, and 221 grams of carbs, totaling 2,078 calories. Now, this is a very balanced meal plan. This is a very balanced macro ratio. Low fat, moderate carb, high protein depending on what your body weight is. For me, I would need to add another 20 grams of protein to this in order for it to be sufficient to maintain my muscle and my physique. However, eating around 55 grams of fat and 221 grams of carbs is not out of the ordinary for somebody like me. 2,000 calories is a basic daily allowance, and that's what our food pyramid gives out. Everybody's different, though, and I suggest that if you want to do something like this, grab yourself a macro calculator. My favorite one is from prettydamnripped.com. I've been using that one consistently now for the last 5 years or so, and just figure out what ratio is going to be best for you. Always make sure that you eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. That is the most important thing when it comes to building and repairing the muscle that's on your body. But to have this daily for $30 a week is extraordinary. That is, and if you're somebody who is focused and dialed in, right? Because everybody has an explorative tongue. They want to taste different things, right? But if you need this, this is what's important. Do the bare minimum. Get used to eating the same thing every day. It is okay to have a structured routine like that because it also helps your metabolism when it comes time for you to step out of your typical zone and eat something that's different. This is something that I've done for a long time. Is I just consistently eat the same things. On Saturdays, we like to do different barbecues, different smoked meats, and I'll go ahead and do that. Or on Sundays, we like to have some chicken wings sometimes, or afford myself some Chinese food or something like that. That is perfectly okay as long as you're staying within the guidelines for 6 out of 7 days a week. It's important to stay consistent. And if what you have to do to stay consistent is eat the same exact thing, why would you let that stop you from reaching your goal? If your goal is to build your physique and get healthy and have fat start to come off your body, get used to a routine. Because if you don't have one, you're just going to make it harder for yourself. The next thread that I'm going to get into is I labeled this as stop wasting your time. And that's actually something that comes from my article earlier. I have a point where I say there's 24 hours in a day. I'd like to make the most of them. So that's why I'm doing this writing as an outlet rather than scrolling into the abyss. So Carnivore Aurelius, somebody that we've talked about before on this podcast, goes on to say 8 hours sleep, 8 hours work, 30 minutes reading, 1 hour exercising, 30 minutes meditating, 30 minutes cooking. That still leaves 5.5 hours in the day. You have plenty of time. You just waste it all. And that's true, especially in the day and age of cell phone. You know, how many times have you talked to somebody and you've heard them say that they don't have time? Everybody has time. People at my job come up to me constantly. They ask me about what I've done to get in shape, what I've done to be motivated to get in shape. And I mean, honestly, the biggest motivation for me to get in shape was feeling like crap all the time. And all of these people who are asking me, I'm damn sure that they feel like crap too. So why continue to do the same things that you do day in and day out? Why not try something else? Why waste your time doing the same things every single day? People come up to me and they say, well, what about movies? What about this? What about that? Those things aren't important. What's important is your life. What's important is longevity. You can enjoy movies. You can enjoy your phone. You can enjoy all of these things on vacation or when you retire. But right now, we need to make the most of ourselves. We have so much more time than we think we do. Even going into next week when I'll be working a 10-hour-a-day schedule, I don't think that that's going to stop me from doing everything that I'm already doing. Okay, so that's 10 hours at work, and that's an hour to commute. Okay, there's 11 of my 24 hours. I still have more than half of my day to achieve all of my other goals. Is that going to stop me from writing? No. Is that going to stop me from running? Absolutely not. And it's not going to stop me from going to the gym. I've already prepared myself for what I'm going to do moving forward. A very special friend of mine told me that she's eating canned chicken right now to help reach protein goals in her meal plan. So when I was in the grocery store today, what did I pick up? I picked up some canned chicken because usually what I would do when I got done with my run was get home, make a smoothie and a small meal before I go to the gym 2 hours after that. But now I'll be getting done with my run around 4:10 or 4:15, around the time that I'm usually eating. So if I prepare myself a nice chicken salad that I could have immediately after my run, have it prepared in my cold lunchbox in my car, what's the difference between that and going home and making something to eat? That's affording myself time. Time is fleeting, and there's a specific amount of time in a day, but there is a variety to the amount of things that you can do with that time. And if you want to make the most of yourself, use that variety wisely. Time is important, and you should value it. Oh my goodness, what happened? This is something that's never happened before on the podcast, and usually I would cut something like this out, but I think this moment should be documented. I had a thread in here that I labeled "Stop, value your time," and now it's gone. It's no longer there. This post was deleted. I don't know why it was deleted. I thought it was a good thread, good enough for me to save, but apparently the person who authored it did not. And that's unfortunate. I will miss that thread. I really will, and so will you. But the message still stays the same, right? I think I got enough out of valuing your time from stop wasting your time. Uh, like I said, time is strict and consistent, and we have a variety of things that we could do to fill that time. So use that time wisely. Reward yourself with your time. Don't just take the time to do the things that you think you want or the things that society tells you want. Use your time to move yourself forward and progress. Progress is important. And progress comes from getting after it. Adam Kolb went on to tweet, "By age 25, you should be smart enough to realize school and a job will never make you rich. If you're still in your 20s and 30s, focus on this. In the next 10 years, you'll be wealthier than 97% of the people in your 40s. So, here we go. This is a message for me. I've got 10 years to gain this wealth, so let's see what I have to do to get there. Number 1, wake up at 4 a.m. Don't dread to wake up early. This will save you 3 hours before your day starts. Cultivate successful people habits. Make your bed, read 50 plus pages, take a glass of water, hit 200 push ups and 100 squats. Success is hidden in your daily routine. Bingo. Exactly what I was talking about with time. Time is very valuable, and in time is something that you can move. The clock stays moving on a consistent basis, but you don't have to move the same way every day. I will be waking up at 4 a.m. just in order for me to get to work for 5 a.m. However, that is my waking up period. Bingo. I'm going through that first half of my day there where I'm working. And that's something that's helping me progress, right? But then I get right out of work, and what do? I go for my run. And then from my run, I go to the gym. And then from gym, I go to bed. And these are really the three things right now that I need to focus on the most: my career and my health, my goals. Being in the gym is working on my health. Running is working on my goals, as I stated earlier. Running in a marathon, qualifying for the Boston Marathon is one of my 3 major life goals. And so running is working towards a goal, and being in the gym is taking care of myself. Number 2, set aside 50 minutes of your day to read. 88% of financially free people are addicted to learning. Financial education is self-taught. Read books on human nature, psychology, wow. philosophy, and business. Save yourself from mediocrity. Sometimes some words have a certain cadence to them. And when you're reading quickly, when I'm reading quickly, I'll try to maintain the cadence to the word prior when it's a completely different word. I think that's exactly what happened there. The thread goes on to say, use the knowledge you obtain and let it improve your mindset. Build a silent wealth, a great physique, stay anonymous, a clear mind, filthy rich. This will help. This will make you win over 99% of people. Number 3, learn a high income skill. You don't have to complicate it. Do this. Choose a skill, select 10 to 20 YouTube channels teaching the skill, binge watch it for 100 days, start to practice as you get better. I recommend these 4 skills. Pick one skill and develop it for 90 days. Sales, coding, copywriting, forex trading. Fact, a skill is 10 times more valuable than a degree. Absolutely. And that's why I picked up a trade. I'm a skilled tradesman. And 54 hours a week for the next, 2,000 hours, I will be a skilled journeyman. 4, work out 5 times a week. If you can't work out daily, how can you expect to be rich? Set aside 40 minutes a day to do 300 push-ups, 200 squats, and planks. In 6 months, you'll have a formed chest, strong arms, and legs. This is a great way to start. And this is actually how I started, with body weight exercises. And now being in the gym is pushing myself and helping me reach new goals and achieve new things. And I think that's the most important thing in my life right now, is constantly challenging myself. Number 5, connect with high-value people. Before you consider this, first invest in yourself. Invest in expensive shoes, dress clothes that fits, have a good haircut, and smell nice. You attract who you are. Create 15 plus streams of income. Use people to multiply yourself. Set aside 30 minutes a day to learn persuasion, communication, how to delegate tasks. It'll be 10 times more easier to control everyone around you. Now, this sounds crazy. Just the way that it was prompted to us. It'll be easier to control people around you. Don't worry about controlling people. Control yourself. To diversify your sources of income, do this. Invest in assets, open businesses, start online businesses, create money options. There's no limit as to how much you should make. There is no limit to how much you should make. And if money is your major goal in life, then go ahead. Attack these business goals. For me, I like to think that I'm a pretty simple and modest person. I kind of know what I want to achieve in order to be, in my mind, successful. Success is subjective. It's not objective. Success is something that thwarts everybody. Everybody has a different idea of success. I tell you, there's probably billionaires out there that still feel like they're not successful. And because they're dictated by money. I'm not dictated by money. I'm dictated by a comfortable life, because my life has been chaos leading up into this point. That's not what I want to continue with. I want to find secure structure. And that's why I took to this trade. And that's why I do what I do for passion outside of it. That's why I write articles for free, and that's why I come on the podcast and do this right now for no monetary gain. This is a passion. And I think what's important in life is to follow your passions and let everything else follow you. Don't go chasing anything. Don't chase money. Don't chase people. Chase your goals, chase your dreams, and chase your heart. Your heart wants what it wants for a reason. Follow your heart. My heart tells me to come on here and give advice in a way that I have some subjects to go off of and some experience to use with those subjects. I like a lot of what this guy is saying. A lot of it is just, hey, don't limit yourself, get after it, find different ways to make things possible and achieve them. I don't like how it tied back to money. We as a society, we as people are way, way, way too concerned with money. You think Jesus ever cared about money? Now, I know that's a crazy thing to say to people who don't believe, but honestly, like when we talk about money in church, the only thing we say is don't worry about it. Because what you give, you get back tenfold. And this world isn't for us. You have to remember that. But comfortability comes with a relationship with Jesus Christ. Comfortability comes with a relationship with yourself and accepting where you are. I know that working through my trade, I could have a comfortable living. Comfortable is comfortable. Now, the last thread I have here is if you want to be a better you, read this. Upgrade your life in silence. And I will get on here and boisterously tell you how to do that. And also tell you the things that I do to upgrade my life. I'm not too silent about it. I don't go around saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, though. And I think that's the point that this is going to make. The thread goes on to say, you can be whoever you want to be and live the life of your dreams. The only thing that is keeping you back is yourself and your mind. Once you realize this, you can go as high as your dreams go. Here are 11 atomic habits that will help you do so. Try to be rejected more. Every day, reach out to 1 or 2 people you'd like to work with, even if you know they won't respond. You might not hear back at first, but eventually you will get a response from someone. You got nothing to lose, but potentially a lot to gain. 2. Practice diverting your attention. When you have a self-defeating thought, the solution isn't usually to mull on it until you arrive at a conclusion. You should distract yourself with something productive. Focus on something that helps you, not negative thoughts. And that's great. This is something that I've seen before. You feel like, oh, I can't do this, or I'm nervous to do this. Give yourself a pep talk in that moment instead of continuing to harp on the fact that you're nervous. Remind yourself of what you're capable of constantly. Number 3, curate your sphere of influence. The people you spend the most time with have a significant impact on who you will become. Take a serious look at people around you and who you follow online. Notice what their presence on your news feed does for you. 4. Choose comfort for your future self over comfort right now. If you want to change your life, you need to start considering the needs and wants of your future self over the ones you have right now. Commit to making choices for the benefit of your future self. This is so important. Do you know how many times I've thought about quitting my apprenticeship? Before I finally just sacked up and said, I need to finish this. And it wasn't just me sacking up, it was something that has to do with what I was talking about earlier, where I just can't quit on things anymore. I know that my future will have more success in it if I develop this skilled trade. So, if I suck it up, bang my head against the wall until I figure out how it works, ultimately, 10 years down the road, I will have myself in a better position to do the things that I want in my life. I like to think that people's passions should be their careers. They really should. But you should also practice your passion without money behind it for a while first, just to make sure it's something that you really want to do. Because imagine diving into a career and realizing, I don't want to do this anymore. That hurts. You might feel stuck. My idea of working is find a good career, work in that field, and use that money as a resource to do what you want to do with life. Number 5, be more responsive. As often as you are able, respond to important emails as they come in. If someone sends you a text, answer it when you see it. This will ensure that you aren't left with a backlog of work that needs to be taken care of later. Number 6, be less reactive. When you see or hear something that immediately enrages you or upsets you, before reacting to it and pouring your energy into it, question it. Learning to take that micro-pause between a stimulus and your response will change the way you look at everything. Thinking before you speaking is very important. Now, thinking before you speak, before you have an opportunity to speak or know what's presented to you, is a completely different thing. Like I said last week, don't prepare for things like that. However, this is important. When you're faced with something that's upsetting, or when you're faced with something that might throw you out of your element or throw you for a loop, take a deep breath. Doesn't have to be a deep breath like and a visible deep breath, but stay composed. Practice staying composed. Number 7, take action when you want to do something. In Mel Robbins' The 5-second rule, she explains that what holds people back are those few seconds between having an amazing idea and when your brain interferes. You need to act on your ideas before you convince yourself not to. 8, take action when you don't want to do something. Just because you do not feel like doing something does not mean you are incapable of doing it. Your feelings do not impact your ability. And this is a big thing when it comes to going to the gym. And I had a buddy at work come up to me last week and he said, I want to get in shape. What motivates you? And I say, what motivates me is that I had no motivation. He said, I have no motivation. I said, you know what days are the best days for me in the gym? The days where I go, I don't want to go. I don't feel like lifting weights today. I don't feel like running today. And on those days where I felt like that, I've never had a workout or a run where I finished it and said, man, I wish I didn't do that. Number 9, practice saying no. You should not feel bad for saying no to some things. It is ultimately a means of self-preservation. Since our energy is limited each day, we should make sure it's only going towards something that we truly care about. And this is great. This is something that we talked about last week. I won't dive into it much more. Number 10, read more. How much you read is directly related to your self-growth. And your self-growth is directly related to your external success. If you can't get through a book, that's okay. Listen to an audiobook or podcast. Pastor Andrew said this Sunday, if you're reading a book, don't force yourself to read the book. If you're not into it, find a new book. If by chapter 1, by the time you're into chapter 2 or chapter 3, if it's not something that you feel like is easy for you to read, don't read it. Don't force yourself. Don't turn yourself off to the idea of reading. Find something you enjoy. And lastly, number 11, begin each day by asking yourself, how can I change my life today? Get into the habit of thinking that the coming hours are filled with potential for you to take actions that will change your life forever. And they are. You know, that's not a thought that I had the first time that I ran, but on that walk, that was a thought that I had. I bet I could run, and I couldn't. And look at me now. I feel like I was born to run. I run with purpose. You wake up in the morning and you ask yourself the realest questions as you're fresh. That's going to be what dictates your day. You could wake up today and say, "Oh, my life sucks." And you'll have that thought in the back of your mind for the rest of the day, as long as it goes on. Or you could wake up today and say, today's the day I'm going to make a change. And start with today. Every single day, start with today. When it comes to working out, people say, I'll start next week. And next week turns into the week after that. No day is as important as today is. And you have to seize every moment that you can. Do what you have to do that's best for you. And don't worry. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about what people think. Just worry about trying. Trying is the most important thing. And I hope you all try to read through my articles as I continue to post them out. You can find them once again on Substack at substack.com/@ballwithbump. Let me check that. Make sure that's the right... Yes, at Ball with Bump on Substack. You can find me on Twitter at BumpyBetSlips, where I tweet out these links for the podcast and also for the articles as they come out. You can email me at bookmarkswbump@gmail.com with any suggestions, of course, and I hope that you rate, like, and subscribe the podcast as it comes out on whatever platform that you're listening on. Once again, I love all the feedback. I love when people get back to me. You guys really make my day when you listen. And as always, it's all love. God bless.
I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. I've been riding a wave like I surf. I've been leaning in and out of work. I could show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I've been riding wave like I surf. I've been leaning in and out of work. I could show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go out past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go out past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go out past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher, man.